Hello, this is Elisa Kohler. Let's learn how musical notation works. Before we begin looking at lines, dots, and symbols, let's first agree on what we're going to call the notes themselves. Musicians label notes with letter names which we refer to as the musical alphabet. As you can see, there are only 7 letters rather than 26, and there is a specific reason for this. That reason is called the octave. You'll notice that after the 7th letter, G, we return to the letter A and call it number 8. So just as an octagon has 8 sides, an octave is the distance between 8 notes. You can also think of an octave as the distance between 2 notes with the same name, because the musical alphabet is a repeating pattern that can start on any letter. To see and hear how this works, let's take a quick look at a piano. Here we have a close-up of a piano keyboard showing the letter names of the notes. The numbers after the letters on the keys refer to the various octaves of a full-size piano. Let's see how our ABCs sound on this piano keyboard. Maybe that's not quite what you were expecting to hear, but that's what the musical alphabet sounds like. When we start on A and play a series of 8 notes, we get an A minor scale. We'll learn more about scales later. We're just learning basic pitch notation right now. So to hear the more familiar major scale, we'll start on C and play a different series of 8 notes. Did you like that better? Did you hear the octaves at the end? You'll notice that when we start on C, we end up with A as note number 6. And this shows us the limits of the musical alphabet. When you get to G in a series of notes, the next note is not H, but it must be A. Now, granted, looking at all of these boring letters and numbers can be dreadfully unmusical, but now you will better understand the beautiful logic of musical pitch notation, where notes visually move up and down on the staff rather than just in a straight line. Here we have the musical staff. As you can see, it's a graph made of 5 lines and there are 4 spaces between them. Now, why do we have 5 lines? Well, the answer is the octave. Now, you'll see what happens when we draw circles to represent notes on all of the lines and spaces starting at the bottom. So if we count them up, we'll just start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you have it, the octave, and that's why we have the 5-line staff. Okay, so the octave shows up everywhere and the 5 lines of the staff are very nice, but how do we know which notes are which? Well, for that, we need clefs. A clef is a symbol that represents the location of one specific pitch on a musical staff. For example, the treble clef represents the note G, and the bass clef represents the note F. Based on the location of a specific clef pitch, the positions of the other notes in the musical alphabet can all be found. Let's see how this works on a staff. A treble clef is used to cover higher notes, and the bass clef is used for lower notes. Here's how they both work. The treble clef represents the note G on the 2nd line above the bottom of the staff, right here. In fact, the design of the clef symbol grew out of a fanciful version of a letter G with a loop circling the line. For the clef note, it looked a bit like this. And you can see that that's where our G is here. So when you draw notes on the other lines and spaces of the treble staff, we just continue the pattern of the musical alphabet to label all of the notes like this. So I'll just keep putting them all here. And since we know that that second line on the bottom there, the second line from the bottom is G. What comes before G in the alphabet? F. What comes after it in the musical alphabet? A. And then we can keep going. A, B, C, D, E, and F. So those are what we would call all of those treble clef notes. In a similar way, the bass clef represents the note F on the second line from the top of the staff, right here. That's F. Its unique design grew out of a fancy letter F, where the two prongs of the F surrounded the line for the clef note, like this. So you can see how that worked. And as you might expect, by now, we can figure out where the other notes are in the bass clef staff based on the pattern of the musical alphabet. So if we keep going, we do the same notes here, but you'll notice that because of the position of the F, they won't have the same names as they do in the treble clef. So this will be, well, here's F. So if we keep going in the alphabet, F, G, in musical alphabet, A comes next, and we can keep going backwards from that F, E, and then D, C, B, and A. That is how it all works. When we put the treble and bass clefs together on two lines, we get what is called the grand staff. This is the way piano music is written because the treble clef is generally used for high notes on the right side of the keyboard, and the bass clef is used for the low notes on the left side. Now, let's see how this works on an actual piano so that we can see and hear this in action. There you have it. It takes a lot of practice to become fluent in reading pitches and treble and bass clefs, but that's what homework is actually for. To help you get started, here are some traditional crutches for learning to memorize notes on the staff. In the treble clef, the lines are, from the bottom, E, G, B, D, and F. And of course, the old saying, every good boy does fine, helps to remember them. It couldn't be easier to remember the spaces on the treble clef staff. They just spell face, F-A-C-E. And the lines on the bass clef staff, starting from the bottom, are G, B, D, F, and A. And the saying for that is, good boys do fine always. And the spaces on the bass clef are A, C, E, and G. And sometimes you can think of all cows eat grass. I've also heard all cars eat gas, but not hybrids. But at any rate, those are a few little tricks to help you. Before we go, let's take a moment to review the terms we have covered in this video. The musical alphabet, or the 7 letters we use to label notes, the octave, which is the distance between two notes with the same name, the staff, which is the group of 5 lines on which we notate musical pitches, the treble clef for high notes, and the bass clef for low notes. Thank you for watching. I hope that this has been helpful. Stay tuned for future videos covering more details about the wide world of music theory. So long!